This is Jackie Cooper with the Blockchain Legal Institute talk show, as well as the Maryland Blockchain Association talk show. And I want to share with everyone news soon to be the Blockchain Legal Institute's TV channel, because we are going to be hosting on Roku. And so this episode will also be featured and shared on that channel as well. So I am really excited to be sharing information about my guest. Kyle has a really interesting story, and our connection also has an interesting twist and story. I was coming back from the Bitcoin conference, and I saw this backpack with this symbol that I thought, looks really familiar. So I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "What is this? And who are you?" And we started a conversation. And one thing led to the other, and I realized he lives in Maryland, and he's working internationally, and he's with an organization that really is doing great things. Kyle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jackie. I got when we talked on at the airport, I was so exhausted from an incredible week in Nashville. So I'm a lot more better rested today.
I know we've had many conversations because I'm really excited about Dfinity and the internet computer, and learning more about all the use cases that can happen as a result of this. And for those that know me, my background's law as well as education, and I am an avid learner about blockchain vocabulary and what's going on within the hackathon world. And there's so much I don't know. But, again, meeting individuals like yourself and then learning about all these wonderful applications from the education side, I'm very excited because I know these are career paths for individuals. And I love being a part of the hackathons because I'm meeting developers and individuals that are so creative because of what they are trying to problem solve. And it's really the next generation of where we need to go. But before we even look at the protocol and everything else that we're going to share, how did you get involved? What's your background? I love stories, and why don't you share yours?
Yeah, I actually I was in pharmaceuticals, the pharma industry before I got into blockchain. I've as a hobby been interested in blockchain for a long time, particularly use cases of blockchain, not just as like a financial to create like a financial asset, but like as solving IT problems. In 2020, 2021, I got to learn firsthand about how hard it is for an enterprise or a corporation or really anyone to control information on their own networks, right? Like, how do you have good cybersecurity? How do you create tamper-proof software, that kind of stuff. And at that same time, ICP was launching, and their founder, Dominic Williams, was out talking about how blockchain is actually a core feature, a core solution to the cybersecurity issue, right? Where you can have security baked in at the protocol level, as opposed to like a typical internet, intranet, like you don't have that security. You have to layer on top security, as well as just the consensus mechanism of blockchain as creating tamper-proof software. So, when a hack does happen, the malicious node just gets knocked offline and the network just keeps operating as usual. And so it really stuck with me when I heard those words of like, wow, this is a vision of blockchain different than like Bitcoin as like a financial asset, and even big different than Ethereum, which is focused just more on like small applications. He was talking about, hey, we're going to move towards in the long run about all applications will run on a blockchain network. And so ICP's so that got me really interested in it. I went down that rabbit hole and found myself at Dfinity to help support that vision to bring all software onto the blockchain.
Yeah, so I'm going to share screen for a second so we can kind of do a tour of what Dfinity is, and then we're going to go over to the internet computer. So we have here on the screen information. For those that are listening on the audio side, definitely hop over to the YouTube side, because I know that some of my talk shows are downloaded onto Anchor and other platforms. But what you're going to see on the top is information about grants, hackathons, events, and news and jobs. So, why don't you explain a little bit more about the hackathon side? How does Dfinity get involved? Is it on from the Internet Computer Protocol side, or does it get involved with other things?
Yeah, so I think the best way to understand it is the Dfinity Foundation was the nonprofit, the foundation that created the Internet Computer.
Okay.
When it went to mainnet, it will right at mainnet launch, it was then the entire protocol, including all hardware decisions, all software decisions, was placed under control of a DAO then. So at that point, then Dfinity no longer had control over the internet computer. It was launched in true Web3 fashion it was just launched into the world. So that actually you can kind of see on that webpage that the Dfinity Foundation is a major contributor to the internet computer blockchain. So that's now how we see ourselves is we are one contributor to the code base, to the hardware base. But the DAO is actually the true controllers of the internet computer. So when we part of our remit or our mission, again being a nonprofit, we have to be mission focused. Um, Part of it is to continue to develop the tech stack and submit code updates to the DAO for their consideration. But the other part is a growth side where it does no good to have a protocol out there that's not being developed on. And so we'll do things like hackathons, bounty programs. We'll end up at conferences like the Bitcoin Nashville conference where we met on the way home. And the whole idea is basically getting the word out and encouraging developers to build on the internet computer as a to help the adoption of the technology.
Have you, just out of curiosity, and we're going to go over to the Internet Computer platform in a second, have you been working yet with any of the Maryland universities? Or, I mean, that's an area that I know I want to connect with and develop. Have you been working with them yet?
I have not. I personally went to Loyola University, so that's on me that I should have at least connected there. Um, yeah, honestly, that's been an oversight on my part.
Well, we're going to correct that because you and I are going to connect with the various universities to make them understand, one, how exciting this is for adults to be part of, and then two, to offer this to them so that way they can actually have their students have blockchain clubs and be part of the hackathon world because if they're involved with coding or computer, they need to know about this. And I'm just scrolling down for everyone who's seeing this, and it really is really interesting. Um, you know, Curiosity here, it makes me ask this question. I'm seeing two different protocols mentioned here, Bitcoin and Ethereum. How is it possible that the internet computer is able to be part of both of those worlds? Because, for those that might be new to this, every chain usually is either Bitcoin or Ethereum. And Ethereum doesn't hop over to Bitcoin, nor vice versa. But I'm curious how you're able to bridge both.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the architecture of the internet computer. So again, Bitcoin was intended to be peer-to-peer cash, digital cash payments. Ethereum was meant to host small smart contract software applications.
Yeah.
The internet computer was built to, I mean, the way I most easily communicate it is it was meant to be a decentralized web hosting service. So I always say Amazon Web Services without the Amazon. So to get that, you have to have certain performance, right? You have to be able to store a lot of data in a smart contract on the internet computer. You have to have low latency. There's a lot of expectation. You have to be able to host a front end. So from the start, the internet computer took a lot longer in development in order to figure out exactly how to architect that design from a blockchain perspective. Once that went live, that then made it possible to if you think about why you would have this decentralized web service, part of it is that it should provide value back to other blockchains.
Hmm.
So to accomplish that with a security mindset for Bitcoin, essentially the engineers got a Bitcoin light node running on the internet computer, and then they use what's called threshold signatures so that a smart contract on ICP can actually sign a Bitcoin transaction directly back to Bitcoin. So it's like you can have it's a what they call native integration, which is just far more secure than, having like a third party that manages the Bitcoin private keys. In this case, ICP itself manages the Bitcoin private keys. And then Ethereum, similar integration, but slightly different. It uses RPC endpoints and a decentralized service to actually facilitate that integration. But what you now then have is on ICP, it can talk to Bitcoin securely, it can talk to Ethereum securely. So essentially bringing what I always call the superpowers of ICP, the internet computer, it brings it now to the Bitcoin, to the Bitcoin ecosystem and to the Ethereum ecosystem as well.
So for everyone who's listening, if you're not sure about the vocabulary here, this is exactly why you need to be following CryptoMom 2 and also just listening to all the other conversations that I've been having with other individuals within our space, because it's all about building a knowledge base. And you are incredible in terms of how comfortable you are about talking about this and also explaining it. I am on one of your other pages showing about events, and I see Chain Fusion Day, I see AI, Web3. Again, really, the internet computer really has a lot of different activities. And so this is the other reason why I want to make sure that everyone who's interested in learning goes to the internet computer side, the Dfinity side, and register for these events. This is how you participate and learn in these communities. I'm going to hop over to IC, Internet Computer, and we also have Learn, Use, Develop, and Participate. I know that I've subscribed to your newsletter. What are some of the other ways that people can participate and get involved?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the persona. So if you're a developer, you may want to consider building an application on ICP. If you've already built a smart contract on another network, whether it be Ethereum or maybe even Solana or Cardano or something, you actually don't even have to rebuild your application. You can actually use what we call a chain fusion is the brand name for the technologies that do all the integration. You could actually use that as a way to integrate back into ICP. If you're a user, there's at that top, there was I think a use tab. You can see the different applications that have gone live on ICP. So I think it really depends on like, who you are listening. There's all sorts of ways, right? Again, it's kind of like, there's the use cases. But yeah, it's so either using the ICP apps, or developing on ICP. I think one of the things that I want to drive home of like the purpose of all this, because in blockchain, oftentimes we spend a lot of time talking about the technology and
Yeah.
not why the technology matters. I mentioned a little bit earlier that blockchain in general, ICP in specific, can bring security to an entire network, right? That's like one of the use cases. You also can bring transparency. So you mentioned AI. You can actually run an AI inference engine on the internet computer, and what that then allows is for an entrepreneur or a developer to provide the users of that AI verification that their prompt was not tampered with on the way to the inference engine, that they're actually talking with the inference engine they think they're talking with. So you're not thinking you're talking to ChatGPT when really you're talking to a malicious actor who's just trying to get some of your things. So you can all this to say, by having a blockchain-backed web service, you can build innovative products that cannot be built in a Web 2 format. You can also decentralize your product in very interesting ways. So that's actually another way people can get involved. There's at least 24 that I know of, maybe even more, applications where the developer built the application and then turned over the application to a DAO. Now that DAO could be the users of the application, or it could be like investors who maybe took control of the project. But you get this Web3 decentralized ownership model that is possible by putting applications fully on chain. In that case, the DAO actually truly owns the application. They have full control over the code base. So the code base can't be changed, data can't be sold. You can offer your users like things like, you know your data is not being sold to a third party because you're one of the owners of the application. So a lot of cool ways that people are using the technology to build applications that weren't possible, let's say, 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, the technology has really evolved very fast. You and I were talking prior to we started recording about the government possible applications. Do you want to share more about that? I know that I'm on the page right now dealing with privacy and digital identity, and I know that that's a concern that governments have, in terms of information. But why don't you share a little bit more about that? Because I know we have a lot of listeners who are within the government.
Yeah, so yeah, this the webpage you're on now, Internet Identity. The best way to think about that is as think about Google login, right? So you've probably, if you have a Gmail account, you've probably connected it to a lot of other applications. And the reason why Google created that is so they can track you across. They know that you're the same user using Gmail, and then you went over and used Facebook, and you typed these, and then you went over to Instagram. Actually, that's a bad example because Instagram and Facebook already are co-owned. But anyways, they can track you in your entire digital history. So internet identity, again, another unique feature that you can do on a blockchain, but not on a traditional Web2 tech stack, is basically a solution. It's like your Gmail login or like your Google login, except for you don't have the ability to be tracked across. So when I log in on one application on the internet computer, like let's say a social app, and then I go log into a different social app using my same identity, those two apps don't know that there's no way for them to know that I'm the same, that I've used both of them. Um, when you think about like then in the case of like government, like you instantly can now provide a lot more privacy for your government agencies is a good use for that identity solution. But then you can also even think, okay, if that's possible, what else is possible? And so um, it's actually possible for like a federal agency or even an enterprise to fork the internet computer and launch it as its own private subnet, like a sovereign cloud, basically like a not quite like a cloud hosted thing like AWS and not quite an on-prem solution, but instead something that uh, you can have it like almost like an intranet that is untamperable and fully private. So we are seeing a lot of interest in, government from federal agencies across the world and even enterprises who see this as a solution to some of their cybersecurity risks. And such. So I think that that's really appealing within the Maryland area, obviously with our federal roots here.
Definitely interested with the federal roots, and then definitely interested in terms of just enterprise Web 2 going to Web 3. Um, so if someone is interested, in accessing the, either one of these platforms for sure, click on the links. But if they need some help or have questions, what would you recommend that they do? Is there, would they be reaching out to you? Who do they reach out to if they have specific questions for development?
Yeah, so especially developers. Well, yeah, if you start at internetcomputer.org, great place to start. You're going to find really good developer docs as well as like user docs to get started. But there's also a really robust forum. You'll see a link in the menu there on the website. Um, People go in there for anything like, hey, I tried to log into this app. I don't understand what's going on. You're probably going to get a response because the community is very engaged there, all the way to like if you're a developer and you're really trying to struggle, like you're trying to create some sort of Bitcoin application and you're struggling with, how do you make a Bitcoin transaction signature work in this certain way using a certain signature scheme? You'll probably find somebody on the forums who will answer your question, whether it's from Dfinity or whether it's just the community at large. Somebody will be at. So that's the forums is always a great place. You can also find it forum.dfinity.org, I believe is also the web address.
And all those links for individuals who are listening or watching will also be embedded in the blog below, as well as in the website. So that way you can kind of connect and learn. Kyle, I really appreciate sharing more. I know we're going to be doing lunch and learns for the General Assembly. We're going to be doing meetups. We're going to be doing workshops. So all of that will be shared out. Any last minute thoughts that you'd like to share to our wonderful community?
I mean, I always ended on this is think innovatively. Sometimes I see a lot of people come and they try to build what's already exists on Web 2, build it on Web 3. And if you want to do that, sure, but it already exists in Web 2. Rather, blockchain technology brings specific advantages like cheaper financial transactions, privacy, in some cases, or transparency in other cases, depending on the use case. Um, the ownership, digital ownership, all of those things, how do that incorporate into like an innovative idea that goes beyond what's already been built? And so I always just encourage people think as innovative as possible, and let's just build the future together.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also want to mention to everyone, I'm not sure when you're going to hop on and listen to this interview, because obviously our talk is going to be embedded within the association's website for a very long time. But if you go over to Blockchain Legal Institute, we do have our global summits, and Kyle will be one of the speakers on our global summits. That will be it's the October 2024, because again, that's coming up soon, but you might listen to this after. And so if you also like to hear what Kyle has to share on the Global Summit, which is going to be about blockchain and sustainability, definitely hop on over there, because there's a lot going on in our community. And in a summary of 20 minutes, it's really hard to do it all.
Yeah, an
So
exciting space for sure.
yeah, it is. So as I always say at the end of all my shows, everyone, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We're all connected. We're all part of one world. And thank you so much for hopping on. And Kyle, have a great day. Talk to you.
Thank you so much.